I always would look under there. That's how I knew the bars were there, because almost unintentionally, like when I drive by here, I always look that way. Most of the time I would have something that, like a sleeping bag or a blanket, but sometimes depending on what was happening in your life, you frequently would lose things that you had one night you don't have anymore, or, be in a position where I'm in jail for a few days and come back and somebody else is laying in that area. So you just kind of end up where you end up at any given time. I would come off from underneath the bridge, and the billboard that sat right there would I would just connect with that billboard, and it was basically a doctor. It was a medical setting of a doctor, and the doctor was looking upward, and you could tell it was a legacy health billboard. Back then, I never really knew that there was even any significance to that billboard, but I was gonna find later on in life that that billboard did eventually end up having a significant connection for me later on in life. The thing that seems so hard to accept is why I couldn't find the desire to try to do something different with my life. It's almost like I felt like this was all I deserved. And I think a lot of that came from, the shame and the guilt that I felt about, allowing myself to reach such a place. I'm originally from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I was raised by my mom, which was a single parent. There were 3 different fathers between the 5 of us. But one of the things I experienced at a really young age, once we got our Section 8, we moved in the suburbs, and we were the first African-American family in that community. And I remember that being something that had a huge impact on me because I wasn't accepted for who I was. As I got a little bit older, closer to 11, 12, that's when I remember beginning to run. So I just felt like I wasn't comfortable in my own skin, and I think that led me to just want to escape. So I started venturing off in Minneapolis, we referred to it as the North Side, basically the projects. And that was a place where I could go where during school hours you could always find people hanging out. Nobody's judging you, asking you why you're not in school. That's when I met my first boyfriend. I was around 14, 15 years old, but it wasn't long before I learned that he was, an alcoholic. So being in that very abusive relationship, again, adding to that emptiness inside of me, by the age of 18, I was a mother of 4. It was sometime around that time is when I learned that my kids' father was using crack cocaine. I'd love to be able to say that I completely got away from it, but that's not what happened. I quickly joined him. And at that point, things that was already bad got worse quick. I made a decision to leave Minnesota. Within 2 years, again, not dealing with all the stuff that I think should have been dealt with that might have led to me letting go and falling into another relapse, my children were taken away again. And at this point, I really hit the streets hard. I was getting involved in criminal activity, prostitution, just all those things that come along with an addiction. I mean, there's really no boundaries around it. And once I ended up in jail, that was the first time I ever really had a chance to think. And I remember going through this period where I felt like I was just losing my mind, like I could hear my kids screaming, saying, "Mom, Mom." And I'm sure that I was definitely dealing with some severe mental health issues at that time because all those feelings were surfacing up at once. And after, during the time that I was going through that, I remember, starting to hear this voice. And again, I didn't know, I was already hearing other voices, but this particular voice felt comfortable. I began to listen to that voice more, which ultimately led me to start wondering, what if my life could change? It was the person that was over my probation that told me, "You would make an awesome nurse." And I always wanted to be a nurse. I watched my mom. I always dreamed of being a nurse, but I kind of let go of that dream a long time ago because I always knew addictions, criminal records. You can't be a nurse with all that stuff. Are down one CNA because we still have one sitter room. And Dutchin, you will be sitting today. And so she told me to just go talk to the Board of Nursing, just apply and see what they say. And so I did, and of course I was denied. But the person that was encouraging me to continue to move forward, she asked me, she said, "Do you agree with their decision?" And I said, "Well, no." And she said, "Why?" And I said, "Because I'm not that person anymore." But with a lot of hard work, a lot of resources, community organizations, a lot of arms wrapped around me, a lot of support, in 2007, I graduated with my RN degree and became a registered nurse. The first job that I got was with Legacy Emmanuel Hospital in trauma recovery. And it was a little bit after I had started working there when I came around a corner and I seen this doctor, a team of doctors, but one particular doctor standing in the front, when I realized that that was the man that was on that billboard. Dr. Gubler, who was one of the leading trauma surgeons for Legacy Emmanuel, which was over the unit that I was hired on. And that is when I knew, without a doubt, that God had a plan for my life. It's Isaiah 42:16. "I will lead the blind by ways they have not known. Along unfamiliar paths I will guide them. I will turn the darkness into light before them and make the rough places smooth. These are the things I will do. I will not forsake them." I share my story, every aspect, every part of my story, because there were many places throughout my journey where I could have given up, never knowing all the things I would have missed had I given up. Don't quit before the miracle. Do not give up.